This 1980 comedy was inspired by the real-life stories of women in the workplace. That story and a whole lot more next. Hi everyone, welcome to Retro Flicks. This is your channel for movie and TV retrospectives. I'm going to start out with a personal note here. If any of you that have been watching these videos over the last several months know that I'm moving or trying to move, and I am moving. I'm going to be moving out of state where I am to a house, and it is obviously, if any of you move, you know how stressful it is, and it's taking up so much time. So that's one of the reasons why I've only been getting videos out every few weeks. In fact, this one here is even closer to 3 weeks here. My last one was April 30th, and it's already May 18th. So I've just had very little time to get this in. So my apologies to you. I'm going to actually be moving here at the beginning of June. So I'm hoping at this point right now I have a little bit of downtime, hoping to get a little more content out, even a couple more, I'm hoping. And then by the beginning of June, then at that point, I'm probably not going to be on again until probably well into July. I'm just not going to be able to do anything until then. So I just want to be upfront about that. So you wonder, you know where I went, if I'll be back. Yes, I love doing this channel with you guys, and I will be back. So just kind of giving you just give you a heads up on what's going on. So again, I'm hoping to have like another episode or two, and then by about June 4th though is when I'm going to probably be out of commission until, like I said, probably well into July by the time I get up and get situated. I'm also going to be have to get a new, find a place in my house I'm going to give myself a new studio here, so to speak, to do these videos. But I will be back. So if you've been following me and you're subscribed, just hang tight, and I'll be back after that. If you're just tuning in now, please subscribe, and so that you will see when I'm back on, when I start uploading videos again after June 4th. And then into July or so, whenever I get back to it. So thank you very much for all your support. Today, I was thinking about the video I was going to do, and I was preparing it yesterday. And then last night I heard that Dabney Coleman passed away. And Dabney Coleman is one of my favorite actors, particularly the movies he did in the 80s. That's what I know. I know he did before that, but I know him from the 80s and into the 90s. And so I thought, I'm going to do something on him. Now, we already did do something on him here in War Games, which we did earlier. So if you have an opportunity, go back and watch War Games. He was in that. But I wanted to do something where he was really from start to finish and really top billing, and but and also too, one of my favorite movies, and War Games certainly is. But this actually is my favorite Dabney Coleman movie, and he was just he was in this from start to finish and was the focal point of this, and I love movies like Cloak and Dagger, which he did, and as well too. And in fact, Cloak and Dagger actually was my second. I was between this movie and Cloak and Dagger, but we're gonna go with this one because this really is my favorite Dabney Coleman movie. I love this movie. This is one of those movies that anytime it's on, I will watch it. In fact, I just watched it a few months ago when I was out of town. It happened to be on TV, and I watched it. So let's get right into it. Today's movie is 9 to 5, 1980. In 9 to 5, it's really easy synopsis on this. 9 to 5 follows three women that are office workers, and they are conspiring to get their quote-unquote sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot boss, and they're attempting to basically overthrow him and get him kicked out of the company, and at the very least, just even if he stays with the company, just get him out of there, so get him to another part of the company and get him out of that building, basically. And because he was making their lives so miserable, particularly the women, and there's no doubt that there was a double standard with him. If you're a man, you're fine. Women, he really demeaned. So these three women finally had enough and really kind of spoke for all the other women in the office, and and trying to get back at him. And that quote I have, sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical, bigot, was a quote in that movie that described the character of the boss, and that's actually become really iconic, really an iconic phrase from that movie or quote. Now, talking about the cast, we're going to start with the late Dabney Coleman. And he plays the boss, Franklin Hart Jr. Franklin Hart is the vice president of Consolidated, which is the name of the company. And he makes no bones about his willingness to. Well, let's just put it this way: he's not shy. He's not shy as far as flirting and making sexual advances and harassing the women in the office. And he has no problems with that. And as a matter of fact, he gets his secretary to go buy gifts that he tells other people it's for his wife, but it's actually for his secretary. And we'll talk more about the secretary here in a little bit. And he also refers to the women, the three women that we're going to talk about here, plus any other women in the office, calls them his quote-unquote girls. So that's the character of Franklin Hart Jr. Now, the three women that are saying, hey, we're going to be standing up against him and try to get him out of here for treating us like this, Judy Bernley is one of them, and she's going to be played by Jane Fonda. Judy Bernley is really, I think it's her first job. She had been married for years and years and years and got divorced, and now she is in the workplace, and I think this is actually her very first job, which was very common, and that was one of the things too that you take about this is, from this with women in the workplace too. You certainly have a little bit now, but back then, women working now is very commonplace, but back then it wasn't as commonplace, where you had a lot of women that were housewives, but if there was a death or if there was a divorce, then they had to go out. So you saw a lot of divorcees and widows that were younger having to go into the workplace. And even ones, my family was like this too, as far as my dad lost his job and got laid off in the early 80s, and my mom had to go to work. She was a housewife, but at that point she had no choice but to go to work. So you have that category as well too. Lily Tomlin will play Violet Newstead, and she's a widow. She'd been working at Consolidated for a number of years. She's very knowledgeable. She actually even trained Frank Hart when he came into the company. And she actually trained a guy that Frank Hart gave a promotion to over her. And that's obviously a bitter pill for her to swallow too, as far as there's sexism here, because she just gave a promotion to a guy that she trained. She knew more, if not more than him, but gave him the promotion. So Franklin Hart was his defense in that was, well, he has a college degree and she didn't, but So, and the next is Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton is going to play Dorley Rhodes. Now, Dolly Parton is Frank Hart's secretary, and she's married. I don't think she has any kids. She's a musician on the side, but working a secretary job. But he definitely, and she's very attractive. So he is really, he really harasses her and flirts with her, and like I saw earlier, gets her gifts and stuff. And she's very uncomfortable with this. And then she finds out, she wonders why the office is shunning her. Like, everybody really treats her like an outcast. She ends up finding out that Frank Hart has spread a rumor around that, he's spreading it as fact, but it's not fact, that he is having an affair with her. which is not true, and so everybody looks down on her for having an affair with him, which was not true. So she ends up finding that out. So that's kind of what you're looking at here with the cast and a little synopsis of the characters in this. The production of this, Jane Fonda was inspired to do 9 to 5 because she actually knew somebody that was in an organization in Boston. It was called the 9 to 5. It was an association called 9 to 5. And this was an association of women office workers. And these women and she was listening to them one time, and these women were talking about all these stories and all these dealings they've had in the workplace as women. And Jane Fonda just was really, very interesting. Some of them were very shocking. A lot of what you see in this movie is actually these experiences that Jane Fonda got from these women that they had in the workplace, that they saw in the workplace, and they've dealt with or saw other co-workers deal with. So that was really the genesis of 9 to 5. And you were going to see that this movie really started to champion women in the workplace and get them to really stand up to the harassment and the flirting and all these things in the workplace that they dealt with, and again, we talked about some of the women that hadn't been in the workplace for years, if at all, and are just going in like in the 80s, which was very common. Again, in my experience with my parents, it was very common back in the early 80s when there was a lot of companies were shutting down. My dad worked for a railroad company, and there was a lot of industry shutting down, and so a lot of women had to go to work. But you even go back in the wartime, and my grandmother was one of those where during World War II she went to work. So like in history during war, and particularly you look at World War II, for example, when the men were out fighting, they had to have people working in the factories, and it was the women, Rosie the Riveter, so the women in the workplace have went back to that. But then I think there was a little bit of a lull in the 50s and the 60s, and maybe in the 70s. But then you started to see that happening more. So it really started to give women. This movie gave women really that I think that inspiration to really stand up and be treated better in the workplace. Now that they're starting to really be involved in the workplace. If you look at the soundtrack on this, the soundtrack of this movie went to 77 on the Hot 100, so it didn't do very well, but it was really known for one song, and the one song was a theme song, 9 to 5. So yeah, I'm skipping right to this because this is really a big part of this movie as well too, was this song called 9 to 5, because this was Dolly Parton's real breakout. She had already been a musician, but this is going to be really take her even to the pinnacle of music, but this is really her breakout too in the movies as well. So, but Dolly Parton wrote and performed the theme 9 to 5, and how this came about, she did this while she was shooting the movie, and she found out that her fingernails, her acrylic fingernails, when she tapped them, it would sound like a typewriter. And so she was able to do that with the typewriter with her fingernails and then make a beat. And that's how the song came about, and she wrote it and then performed it. And it actually went on to be a #1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 and the country charts. And nominated for several awards. It was nominated for an Academy Award. It actually won a People's Choice Award and 2 Grammys. So it really set Dolly Parton off in a stratosphere, but certainly was great for this movie as well, no doubt about it. This movie was, for 1980, was second in box office receipts. It came in #2, just behind, I believe, Empire Strikes Back of Star Wars, the Star Wars movie. So, and it made about $103 million on a $10 million budget, so huge and profitable. And here's an interesting part of trivia. This was the first like female centered or dominated movie to make over $100 million. So it was wonderful in that aspect too, for women, and to see that too. So you see a movie based on what women were going through in a workplace, and actually seeing which everybody, even males, but I mean, thinking about what you can do with your boss and stuff like that. If people dreamed about it, if they had ever had a bad boss, But here we're specifically looking at women in the workplace, and 9 to 5 would go into. It would spawn a sitcom from 82 to 83, then it went and ran in syndication, I think 86 to 88. Went 85 episodes, and then it went into a musical, which the musical on Broadway didn't run for long, but then it went to a national tour in 2010. And actually, I found out in April here, just a month ago, Jennifer Aniston has a production company, and it's called Echo Films, and she does it with her partner, I believe it's Kristen Hahn. And just to make sure that I got that right, yeah, Kristen Hahn. They have a production company called Echo Films, and they are in production of a remake of this. So you can just see too, just how the test of time this has stood. This movie, and it's being remade now, in 2024, and it was out in 1980. So just a fantastic film. I just think it's just phenomenal. If you've never seen this, if you haven't seen it for a long time, and you're like, oh, I forgot about that movie, and watch it again. I just love this movie. If you've never seen it, please go and stream it sometime. You don't have anything to do. I think you'll really enjoy it. Again, this is a movie I feel it's still funny today. It's still so good, and I think it still resonates. I mean, we still have issues in the workplace, although things are different. There are still issues. There's no doubt about it, and and this for women, I'm sure women still could find still issues that they run into in today in the workplace. Where can you go and stream this? Well, I didn't see anywhere it was for free. You might check YouTube, because sometimes they have them for free. I didn't check YouTube. You can check that out. But to rent it, you can go to Row 8, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, or Vudu for 9 to 5. And again, this is my ode to Dabney Coleman. Rest in peace, Dabney Coleman. He was 92. What a life! What a life! And what a great actor. And they all were. This is a phenomenal movie. Just absolutely wonderful. Okay, so again, I'll be back here with another episode or two within the next few weeks, and like I said, then I'm gonna have to stop there for a little bit, but not for too long, and I'll be back, and I'll probably be back with some different environment as you're gonna see me from here. So, but I'll be back here in this one here for another episode or two. So again, like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. I really appreciate it. And until next time, that's a wrap.